Okay, welcome back to building AI analysis feature with Cursor. I have not done a video for the back-end implementation of this feature. I've just gone ahead and done it. And we're now kind of at that point. But I want to explain a little bit about what I have done. So first of all, I did an experiment where I used O3 to come up with a new original version of the plan, and interestingly it was fantastic. I then merged that in with the existing plan and that worked really well. And then I just implemented the first two phases, which you can see over here. So the schema changes that we made, as well as the back-end implementation. Now, I haven't actually tested any of the back-end implementation just yet. I tend to let it run with doing the changes, and then I do the front-end implementation, and then I test from the front end. And so that's what I'm going to be doing now. And so we're going to implement phase 3, which is the front-end implementation, as you can see over here. But what I'm going to ask it to do is I'm going to ask it to do a step-by-step so that I can test it fully in the front end. So we're going to start with that. Okay, so we are already adding some buttons into the front end, as well as some helper functions. And we're going to let it run and see what this comes out looking like. And that's that done. So let's flip over to our implementation and see how this is looking, see what we can find. So I don't see the button appearing at all. Do a quick refresh. It should have been refreshing itself anyway. But the button is not appearing where I would kind of expect it to be. So let's go back and find out where it is. So in theory, the file should be here, or the button should be here rather, but I don't see it. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a screenshot of that. We're going to pop back in here. I'm going to add that image. I'm looking at a section and I don't see the button, but there is a file attached to this section. So where do you think that could be? So I'm just going to let it debug what its problem is. I don't actually want the file to, or the button to be there. I want it to be somewhere else, but we're going to let it be there for the time being. Okay, and now it has shown the button up, Analyze with AI, which is good. Now the question is, do we want it to be here or do we want it to be somewhere else? Maybe we want it to be here for the time being. I think this is fine. So I wonder, does it do anything when we click on it? Not yet. That's okay. Okay, that button is looking good there. Next, I want to think about the modal component that we are building. How are you thinking about building that? Keep in mind that we already have a modal component that calls AI providers, specifically whenever we're generating section notes and area notes. How does that factor into our implementation here? So here what I'm doing is I'm remembering that we have a feature in here already which allows you to go and generate notes in here. And so it sends to different models and to different providers, has different prompts involved. And so I wanted to think about that whenever it's building this modal. I think that's the right call. A new modal would be good. different data structures, different UIs. Yep, I think that is a really good plan. Okay, that works really well for me. I would make one change and call it the AI file analysis modal. But apart from that, looks very reasonable. So let's begin to build that. You'll notice that whenever I'm using Whisperflow, sometimes it doesn't get things like all the way correct. So let's begin to build up. Like, doesn't make really a lot of sense from an English perspective, but generally speaking, the model's going to get what I mean, and the pedanticness of it doesn't really matter. Oh, we have a new icon in here, which is the number of attached files. That's really interesting. And okay, so we have a broken... We have a bit of an error in the console whenever we try to open that modal. Okay, so it thinks that it's fixed that problem. We don't have a white page anymore. We'll do a quick refresh just to see. It's mildly annoying that this is all the way down the bottom. Okay, cool. Select the files to analyze. All questions. Oh, very nice. Oh, that's lovely, isn't it? What provider, what model? Super interesting. That has almost one-shotted that. That's very cool. Okay, so there are a couple of UI changes that I think I want to make to this, though. I think in this question selector, what we want to group by the area. And they already are grouped by the area, but it'd be nicer if we could have some UI around that. And then what I would also like is the ability to select all or deselect all, both for the entire thing and for the area. Okay, I probably should have just said that into Whisper. So let's give that a go. Okay, and this is the prompt that I came up with. So let's send that off and see what it comes back with. Okay, so we've made a bunch of changes. Let's have a look at the changes. Lovely. Deselect all these. Brilliant. That's a great change. Ooh, that select all, deselect all should probably be at the top rather than the bottom. So let's quickly change that. This looks fantastic. The select all, deselect all buttons for the entire section, let's have them at the top, not at the bottom. So that should be a really quick change, but that looks lovely and works really well. And we're making some changes. It's messed up the fragment a little bit, but that's okay. Okay, we are back. Deselect all, select all. That works fantastic, doesn't it? So that's a great change. Now it'll be really interesting to see what happens whenever we try to run the analysis. Interesting, we can't click the run analysis button yet. So, it's because we haven't selected something to analyze. So what we will do is, you can't see this, but clear the console, and we get an error when trying to run the analysis, probably because our backend hasn't been set up to do it yet, maybe, but that's a surprise. Let's restart our backend. Okay, we did a quick restart. Let's see if this is working. Okay, we get an error in the API response. So let's accept all that. Okay, can we update the plan to reflect what we've done? Okay, we just quickly updated the documentation with our phase 3 improvements, but we have a bit of an error whenever we send the data, so we're going to try and fix that. Great. We have an error whenever we send the information for analysis. However, this is the response that we're getting. So it'll be interesting to see what comes of this, because it's an error that shouldn't really be happening. It's basically saying that we don't have that file attached to that section, which doesn't really make a lot of sense. So it's established that there's a difference between the IDs that the front end and back end uses for the files. So now it's making a quick change to that. Let's see if that works. Okay, now it thinks that this is working well. Let's find out. And we're just going to send a few questions rather than all the questions, just for speed. Okay, so this is taking a while, so usually that means that the AI is actually doing something, which is great news. And now what we'll need to do is we'll need to look at the response that is returned. Okay, and I can just drag this up a little bit, and you'll be able to see that we did get a bunch of responses, and that's pretty cool. So I'm going to pause there, and we will see about the implementation in the next video.